Who's handling all this? Me.
Victoria Newman has emerged as a powerful woman with charisma and grit in The Boys TV series. Armed with gleaming pearly whites, a stateswoman stage delivery, and smooth power suits, she just about charms every crowd out there, except that soup crowd she met at Godalkin in Gen V. While keeping her blood maneuvering powers a secret, she has waded political waters in Homelander's attention with cunning and caution. But for how long? Homelander and her are scratching each other's backs as of now, but they're hardly BFFs. Homelander has always wanted her under his paw, and Victoria is too smart and in control of her goals to be on the underside of anything for too long. We must also consider the comic inspiration for Newman's character and the bearing it has on her future. While the TV series often deviates from its source material, it has also taken plenty of symbolic inspiration from its pages. Victor Newman, or Vic the Veep from the comics, was a lame-brained stooge who Vought used to gain political leverage they needed to realize their goal of injecting soups into the US military. While his personality differs vastly from Victoria's, their destination is the same, and that is the White House. In this video, we will explore how the stories of these two characters are interconnected and lead to Homelander in the very end, and if Homelander plans to kill Victoria when she runs out of use. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Victoria Newman in Vic the Veep? Victoria Newman, played by Claudia Duman, is a congresswoman who initially batted against the soups, calling for strict regulation to counter them. She's an excellent diplomat who patiently holds her cards until it's time to drop the spade. This is actually evident in her prominent rise from the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs to Robert Singer's running mate, and now VP-elect. But she wasn't always so blessed. She had a rough childhood at the Red River Institute, an orphanage funded by Vought, until Stan Edgar adopted her. While Edgar loved his adopted daughter, he taught her to lay low and never expose her soup identity. This may have had a little something to do with Victoria betraying her adoptive father to Homelander in exchange for having him clear her road to vice presidency. Even after her two-faced run as a politician who's linked with Vought on the sly, she has her moments of warmth. She cares deeply for her daughter, Zoe, and truly believes she's doing right by her, even though she has spouted her some ugly, bloodthirsty tentacles with Compound V. She also loves her adoptive father and couldn't bear the thought of him returning to prison, hence the head-popping rescue in the current season's 5th episode. Huey and Victoria had some genuine moments when they were working together. In the Boys spin-off Gen V, we have seen her compassionate side with Marie Moreau, whose education she sponsored. So, while Victoria Newman cuts a ruthless figure who splashes anyone who gets in her way, she isn't a complete monster. Well, we're only strictly talking in the Boys world though, so Vic the Veep's arc. Victor Newman from The Boys comics, or Vic the Veep, the nickname referring to his VP position under President Dakota Bob Schaefer, who also appears in the TV series as a senator, is a bit of an oaf. He is positioned up there to do Vaught's bidding and push any legislation they require. Vaught's goal of planting soups in defense is always so close, but never close enough. And the greatest thorn in Vaught's shoe is President Bob Schaefer. Bob is no friend of Vought and thinks of soups as unstable punks with too much power. He also has a serious dislike for Vic, and who could blame him? The guy cannot hold the thought in his head for more than a second. Did you know that Dakota Bob was the one to have tasked the CIA with forming an outfit that monitored soups, aka the Boys? Until Bob lived, there was no way for Vought to get soups past that heavily guarded military fence. When Vaught's plans for leveraging the national support for the Seven by having the Seven save the day, stopping a quote-unquote hijacked plane from crashing into the Pentagon failed, Vought was left with only one option left: getting rid of Bob and reinstating Vic as the president. The irony, though, is that Vought never managed to get Bob's blood on their hands. He was killed in issue number 60 of the Boys comics by a Wolverine. No, not the Marvel Wolverine we all hope will one day find peace. I mean, one day after the upcoming Wolverine and Deadpool movie though. But the exotic exotic animal Wolverine. You know, the brown fuzzy weasel. It was actually a whole kids bring their exotic pets to the White House kind of thing. Anyway, Vic the V becomes the president. He's killed off a few issues down the line, and we'll talk about that a little later in the video because it ties into Victoria's fate. Victor was an ideal Muppet for Vought to have danced its tune, but the lengths they go to, pushing him to the peak of US political hierarchy, is honestly banana. I mean, like, why would all the brain cells of a billion-dollar corporation push a dolt who could just as easily destroy them as hoist their objectives? And then again, when we look at the current situation in the Oval Office, I guess we can say that just about anything is plausible on our planet. Victor was even a CEO of Vought once, and given what an oaf he is, I am amazed by how he kept that role without bringing the entire corporation down at the behest of something naive. Like, a competitor could easily plan a call girl or harlot on him and retrieve all their billion-dollar secrets on his computer, right? I mean, that's super easy. And his comics create a fantastic hyperbolic world where corporations are greedy entities, actively distracting the public with their amazing brand of soup entertainment, whilst hijacking national politics to a dangerous end. A great piece of contemporary art, one would say. But where he often falls short is when he discredits en masse the intellect of the people who are able to achieve these great, albeit appalling feats. Every piece of the Vaught's machinery seems rusted with people whose minds are collectively stuck in time at some experimental college frat party, and still, somehow, they're sharp enough to have built a billion-dollar corporation. It's like Vought American is operating on luck that never runs out. In comparison, the Prime series paints a more realistic picture of Victoria Newman. Victoria is far from a puppet, even if she does find herself under Homelander's grip every once in a while. Though she never helmed Vought as her father did, I wouldn't be even mad if she had been in the role. She was the one to save the day at that private meeting at Tech Knight's party. These rich guys had no reason to trust Homelander's plans, as he had no answers for their deeper concerns. His former right-hand gal, Sister Sage, was no help at all. So, Newman quickly took the handle of the situation and convinced the Fat Cats to get behind her. A perfectly well-crafted scene, totally believable on so many levels. Did you notice something there? While Victoria went ahead and picked up Sage's slack, Homelander, though relieved, didn't seem to like Victoria taking full control one bit. The feeling is surely mutual between the two, and while Victoria can't take Homelander in a one-on-one, she did have that slick virus under her pretty thumb for a hot minute, didn't she? What is Victoria's soup-killing virus? The soup-killing virus is a cocktail that has spent some time in the making with some complicated intentions behind it. As the complete story has been darting between the boys and its spin-off Gen V, let's cold-press the virus arc out. It all began in the Godolkin-U's underbelly, the woods, which is a prison for unsteady soups. So, Vought tasked the facility with creating a bioweapon that could control the soups, and the woods had enough test subjects in its cells for the process to go on without a hitch. Dr. Edison Cardosa, the brain behind the research, created a virus that would attach itself to Compound V inside the soup's bloodstream. The project was co-signed by Godolkin-U's honchos like Richard Brinkerhoff and Indira Shetty. Indira, a former Vought psychologist and the dean of Godolkin-U, was especially interested in seeing the project through. When the test subjects started succumbing to the virus, Shetty asked Dr. Cardosa to make the virus airborne. And when he showed reluctance with her genocidal fancies, Shetty blackmailed him. She went to great lengths to create something that would annihilate the soup kind. And she wasn't just another crazy psycho with a sadistic design. Indira was a smart woman who understood soups and how they were being reared in a dysfunctional place like God-U. Indira also had a vendetta with Homelander. Her husband and daughter were on the transoceanic Flight 37. I'm sure you remember. That's the rescue mission Homelander and Queen Maeve bungled as Homelander lasered right through the terrorists, hijacking the flight into the cockpit, killing the pilot, and destroying the airplane controls. Homelander and Maeve let the flight roast and crash with a front view seat from the clouds, capes in the wind. It was the most dreadful thing I have ever seen on a show, known to bet the bottom dollar on shock value and creative carnage. Indira Shetty's grief over her family's death ran deep and, she went on a mission to destroy all soups. A guilt-ridden Dr. Cardosa, who wasn't at all with Shetty's idea of making the virus airborne, got a call from Victoria Newman. With a promise to help his family and start afresh, Newman coaxed Cardosa into handing over the virus. Once the doctor had assured her that he was the only one who could replicate the virus, Newman lulled him into a false sense of security, calling him a 21st century hero and everything. She then proceeded to kill him with her head-popping trick. She quickly got Dr. Samir Shah, her partner, on the job of making the virus better, so to speak. Hidden away from the city in Stan Edgar's farmhouse, Dr. Shah put up shop. By the end of it, he made a complete mess of the farm, giving shots of V to all sorts of poor farm animals. After the boys' party came head-to-head with Newman's at the tattered farm, they tested the last dose of the virus on the murderous V'd-up sheep flying outside, and it worked. Samir had replicated the virus, but while working on the thing, he also realized that to make it strong enough to kill Homelander, he would end up making an extremely unstable bug, which would be airborne. Unbeknownst to the farm squad, Butcher kidnaps Dr. Samir, cuts off his leg to show him is serious, and then tells him to cook some virus for him. Samir turns out to be a tough cookie who makes one dose, but jabs Kimiko with it before escaping. Now, Butcher has Kimiko's half a leg, and Frenchie is testing his virology chops. The escaped Dr. Shah will surely return to cozy up with Victoria over a microbe B cuppa she had wanted so badly. Will she, however, risk one-upping the virus to kill Homelander? Does Victoria Newman plan on killing Homelander? Compassionate control. That was the word Dr. Cardosa used to describe his goals with the virus shortly before Victoria took the last of it and blew his brains out. All over the parking lot. So, while Cardosa used that term casually, not knowing Victoria was a soup, Victoria's distaste for how non-powered humans wish to control soups was very apparent. So then, why did she hand her father's farm to Samir to increase the infection rate of the virus? What does she have to gain by making the virus airborne? Stan Edgar pointed out the obvious idea when he told Victoria, "I can only assume you're searching for a way to control Homelander." So earlier in the video, we talked about the power struggle between Homelander and Newman. While they are presently hand in glove, each wants to have the bigger hand. And while Homelander's shadow is larger than hers right now, Victoria is patient like a python, waiting in complete stillness. She will await the day her prey becomes complacent and walks into her trap, and she has the proximity to Homelander to pull off an upset. Newman also isn't somebody who can spend her imminent presidency as a pawn like Vic the V, so she's already surely thinking of a plan to get rid of Homelander, as she wouldn't ever want his hand in elevating her into the White House to be exposed, right? Currently, Victoria is also fixated on her political future. While Samir gets his petri dishes good and ready, she may just put her feet up and wait for the shifty shapeshifter to do away with Bob Singer. And when she becomes the president, then she will be in a much stronger position to eliminate Homelander. And honestly, there's no trust lost between those two, but it's also a matter of who makes the first strike. Will Homelander kill Victoria Newman? Let's have a quick look-see at what happened to Vic the Veep in issue 65 of the Boys comics. Over the hill with the swords of 1,000 men, Homelander launched a coup. He invaded the White House with an army of soups and killed Vic by severing his head. When Butcher entered the Oval Office, he found Homelander lounging over the president's chair, playing with Vic's decapitated head. And that was that for Vic the Veep. The president. It was so easy for Homelander to kill the comic Muppet version of Newman, and none of the readers ever missed him. No one really cared for him. Will the Boys series take some inspiration from the comics and have Victoria die in the White House? That might be a yes. Let us explore this idea. I've got to start by saying that Victoria will not go down as easily as Vic did. First off, Homelander has too much invested in her. His ends would only be met once Victoria becomes the president, passes some serious defense soup laws, and comes out as a soup herself. That's a tall order to cover in the remaining episode of Season 4. So we're looking at Victoria playing an even more significant role in the upcoming season. Also, Victoria has now the confidence of the donors. Remember the meeting at Tech Knight's party? Victoria won them over with her Todd speech. And now that she's got them cash machines, she's definitely going to keep them. Victoria is nothing if not ambitious. and she knows how to keep her aces together. Under the umbrella of the money makers, there isn't an easy way to end her. So, in the future, if President Victoria shrugs Homelander's arm off her shoulder, after all Homelander has done to get her into the White House, he will have to turn his soups into wrathful gods and fly down the same course as the comics, killing Victoria inside the Oval Office. But we must remember that Victoria is resourceful, and she has got something, or someone, rather. You remember Dr. Samir Shah, right? And, the doctor is totally into her and will do anything for her. And Samir Shah has got the virus. He was able to replicate it in a canned basement against all odds and knows how to make it airborne. Now, Victoria isn't totally cold-blooded and cares about her father, and even Huey, who has just got her caught up on Homelander's plans to fill up Tech Knight's prisons with dissenting, non-powered people. Victoria wants Homelander on a leash. In the fullness of time, she will try to use the virus on him, and if that comes to pass, she'll have the boys in her corner. Now, all that remains to be seen is which side the scales tip. Marvelous verdict. Victoria Newman isn't a tool like Vic the Veep of the comics. She's smart and knows how to work towards her advantage in any situation, but her character may come to a similar conclusion as the moronic Vic. She's headed for the presidential chair in the White House, quite like Vic. With the cross-current of power struggle ever present, with Homelander wanting to control Victoria and Victoria wanting to shed his control, and then throwing in the soup-killing virus in the mix, it can only mean that they will have to go at each other at some point. It all makes for an exciting setup for Season 5. What do you think, though? Will Victoria eventually become a casualty of the show? Or will she get a happy ever after with Zoe? Well, for now, Victoria's entertainment value is up. She's calculative and totally nuts at the same time. She'll waltz up the stage, uncharted territory, trying to reassure an unforgiving soup congregation at God U of their rights, shortly before obtaining a virus that could swallow them quicker than a drunken sailor. She is the master of using tricky winds to sail ashore. So, Homelander may well kill her, but in the last words of Juba the Nubian hunter from Gladiator, not yet. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us. If you haven't already, have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!